Turning to politics, the weekend saw a number of developments with the 2024 presidential field. Former President Donald Trump, as we showed you a moment ago, returned to the stage at CPAC, speaking for nearly 2 hours on Saturday. That as one former Republican governor announced he will not run. Meanwhile, during their annual retreat last week in Baltimore, House Democrats agreed they will stick with President Biden for 2024. NBC News White House correspondent Ali Rafah is tracking all of the developments.
On this bridge, blood was given to help redeem the soul of America.
President Biden paying tribute to the heroes of Bloody Sunday, the seminal moment in the civil rights movement that led to passage of the landmark Voting Rights Act nearly 60 years ago.
The right to vote, to have your vote counted, is the threshold of democracy and liberty. With it, anything's possible. Without it, without that right, nothing is possible.
The president hoping to make good on a 2020 campaign promise his administration is trying to keep in the spotlight ahead of an expected second presidential bid.
I will not let a filibuster obstruct the sacred right to vote.
Across the aisle,
Republicans must compete using every lawful means to win.
President Biden's potential 2024 rival calling for a different kind of change.
That means swamping the left with mail-in votes, early votes, and election day votes. Have to do it. We have to change our thinking because some bad things happened.
Former President Donald Trump laying out the framework of his campaign in a wide-ranging, nearly 2-hour CPAC speech to a heavily pro-MAGA crowd Saturday night, saying he would not suspend it if indicted on any charges from the multiple investigations he's facing. The field of candidates taking shape more than 19 months out from Election Day. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who still hasn't thrown his hat in the ring, touting his own leadership.
You've seen massive gains in states like Florida.
Meanwhile, former Maryland governor and fierce Trump critic Larry Hogan announcing he will not challenge Mr. Trump in 2024.
Having Trump call me names on Twitter didn't really scare me off.
NBC's Ali Rafah reporting for us there. So, Jonathan Lemire, let's step back and take the big view of this. We had Donald Trump at CPAC speaking to really the distilled down core base of MAGA supporters. He won the straw poll as expected by a wide margin, but Nikki Haley was the only other candidate who even showed up there. And after her speech, she was chased by a crowd into an elevator. Her aides had to get her out of there as they chanted Trump 2024. So we know what CPAC was. At the Breakers in Palm Beach, a group of other potential candidates were there talking to donors, raising money. So you did have this divide in the party, these two groups, one that want Donald Trump there, the other that would like to turn the page. But for now, I mean, you just look at the polling, this is Trump's nomination to lose. So what did you see in all those events over the weekend?
Yeah, you're right to point out this sort of a nifty, tidy split screen of where the Republican Party is right now. And one side's louder than the other, for sure. Now, to be clear, there is an effort among some of the Republican Party to seek alternatives to Donald Trump, to believe that putting him at the top ticket of 2024 would lead to another loss. And at the moment, anyway, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who has not yet announced his candidacy, he seems like the preferred choice. That per polling, he is by far the leader in the field were he to jump in. But even he, per most polls, is well behind Donald Trump. And look, this was not a surprise this weekend at CPAC. This was a dark, grievance-filled, almost dangerous speech, I'd say, from the former president, with the key line being, "I am your retribution," suggesting what his next 4 years in office would be like were he to be elected again. But at least CPAC attendance down. A lot of big names skipped it. But Trump, to no one's surprise, put up the big number in the straw poll. But people I did talk to there say, yeah, maybe it's only a portion of the base that's still with Trump, but it's still a bigger portion than anyone else has, and they're not going anywhere. And no matter where this field goes, Trump is going to be able to count on their support.
Well, and the big question, even if someone else managed to prevail in the Republican nomination primary field, would those voters go with the new candidate and vote Republican still? I don't know that they would. You look at what happened with CPAC this weekend, and it is just such a changed landscape and really a microcosm for the Republican Party at large. Think about 2015 and how every single candidate in the Republican field went to CPAC and they spoke and they were received, to different levels of enthusiasm, but it wasn't what it is now. There were different ideologies, different stripes of the Republican Party represented there. This year's CPAC was just essentially a Trump super PAC. And one Republican operative said, CPAC's the swamp on the clearance rack. And I thought that was hilarious, but it does kind of show you it's seen now as something that's almost corrupt and just a pay-for-play event. And it really shows the demise of CPAC as an event.
John mentioned that line from former President Trump, "I am your retribution." It kind of was the core of his argument about grievance. Here's exactly what he said at CPAC.
Our enemies are desperate to stop us because they know that we are the only ones who can stop them. They're not coming after me, they're coming after you, and I'm just standing in their way. That's all I'm doing. I'm standing in their way. If you put me back in the White House, their reign is over. Their reign will be over. And they know it. And America will be a free nation once again. I am your warrior. I am your justice. And for those who have been wronged and betrayed, I am your retribution. I am your retribution. Not going to let this happen.
So, Jen, it really is extraordinary to listen to a former president of the United States, a guy who lived in the White House just over 2 years ago, frame himself as the outsider. Send me to Washington, put me in the White House, and I'll be the one who can take it back for you. I'm the one who can stand in the way of they, them, whoever he's talking about there. Not a surprising speech from him. I mean, we know that's what he says all the time, but still kind of an extraordinary lane for him to try to be in.
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, I think what I heard there, Willie, was it wasn't about party. It was about him. So them and they could be everyone. I mean, he also had some language in his speech where he kind of said, we're not going to go back to the party of, and he named a number of prominent Republicans from the past. I also thought one of the most interesting things he said this weekend, not surprising again, was when he was asked in a gaggle about what he would do if he were indicted. And what he said was, oh, absolutely, whether he would leave. Oh, absolutely, I wouldn't think about leaving. Meaning this isn't even about winning the Republican primary. This is about him leading his movement and his intention, as we've all been speculating, to stay in the race no matter what happens.
Yeah, and to pick up on that point, Willie, this is a lot of same old from Trump on Saturday at really great length, nearly 2 hours. Some people in the back were leaving as he was talking. But the one thing that was new is he went through all of the investigations he's currently facing, and there are many, so that took some time. And he, of course, discredited them. But he did make that point that he's going to stay in no matter what. And he's also been, not necessarily from the stage, but otherwise, his aides are already putting out there that, like, he's not necessarily going to guarantee that he'll support whoever the Republican nominee is if it's not him. So he is setting up the groundwork here that he's in this for the long haul, no matter where this race goes, almost assuring a fractured party and therefore defeat for the Republicans in November of 2024, unless he is the nominee. So he's almost playing he's doing a little blackmail here with the GOP with all the legal peril surrounding him.
Yeah, that is a big piece of this story for him going into 2024. And you hear some of the Republicans, Nikki Haley, who is in the race, saying, are you tired of losing? It's time for a new generation. Obviously, that's a swipe at Donald Trump, though an indirect one. Wasn't well received at CPAC, which is a Trump-friendly crowd.